that's kind of why I'm leaning one of those Ohio State dudes, either Downs or Styles. The issue is, much like taking a running back at 4, you're taking a safety or a linebacker at 5. It doesn't feel good, but in this kind of draft, just take who you feel good about. What's funny about this Sonny Styles, though, here, I'm going to put Sonny Styles here over Downs for now. Sonny Styles is built closer to Kyle Hamilton than Caleb Downs is. Long-limbed freak athlete in the middle of your defense. Like, Sonny Styles is more of that than Caleb Downs. I think he's probably not as athletically gifted as most other safeties that would go that high. He's just such a sound football player, smart football player that, like, you would feel really good about bringing him in and making him a leader of your defense.
All right, gents. B team, we're back. We're back. Haven't been here a little bit. Muller's busy today. Mikey's taking over, but luckily I have my very good friend, draft guru, Mets fan, avid Mets fan, Lukas Berry.
What's up? Dude,
Lukas
I'm
Berry.
happy to be back. I know you guys have been busy as well, but this is it. This is the time of year. This is the time of year I love talking to you guys.
I know. We've been doing this. You've probably been coming on, Lukas, for what, 4 straight years now? 3 or
I think
4
it's
straight years?
been something like that, yeah.
Yeesh. But you're our guy, though. That's the thing. Like, you are the guy that we go to for drafts. Like, I will watch Mel Kiper, Field Yates. I'll listen to Todd McShay at times. But you are the guy who I really get my info from. Not even just the reality of draft, the fantasy of draft too. When it comes to sleeper leagues, ESPN leagues. Like, listen, I took Loveland. You were the reason I took Loveland. So I got to give you props.
Yeah, dude, I was pounding the table for him, and I mean Warren had a really good rookie year too, so I can't talk too much shit, but Loveland sure did pan out, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, even like Luther Burden too. Like he was one of those interesting characters where you didn't really know how he's going to perform because everyone's initial thought was, the Bears have too many mouths to feed. They have DJ Moore, they have Roma Dunze, they still have Cole Kmet, they have a good running game, they have Loveland. Like, we didn't know if Luther Burden would pan out the way he actually did. He exceeded expectations in my eyes. I'm assuming he did for years as well.
Yeah, dude, he's a beast, and now without DJ Moore there, like, the sky's the limit for that dude. So if you have him in Dynasty, like, you're going to be golden. I expect him to go very high in regular draft. Maybe not very high, but like kind of be one of those guys in the mid rounds that people will be saying is like a sleeper, even though he's not really a sleeper. He's going to be good this year.
Yeah, I'm thinking like Luther Burden would be like in regular redraft leagues. I'm looking at like 4 to 5, like if you're drafting in 4th round, you have high expectations, but like 5 would be a good spot for, if you have a 3 receiver league, have him at the number 3, maybe a flex position. But yeah, the trade of DJ Moore had to happen. And I knew you weren't a fan of him, and nor was I. And I'm so happy that they made that move. Shout out to Ryan Poles for that. Shout out to Ryan Poles. That was a great trade.
Dude, it was a great trade. I mean, I was going into this offseason, like, it felt inevitable that he was going to be traded. I just was like, there's no team that's going to like really pay up for like his down year. He had big moments, but like his stats were not that great for his standards. So I was like, maybe the Bears get a 3rd or a 4th round pick considering the deal. They got a freaking 2nd from Buffalo, and that's just like that's insane. But you know what? At the same time, as much as DJ Moore bothered me, more so like just kind of how he carries himself and stuff like that. Like, I do feel happy for the dude. I genuinely think he's a good guy, and going to Buffalo with Josh Allen, like, good destination for him. He can stay winning. He hasn't won crap his whole career, like high school, college, early Bears days, Panthers days, like terrible teams. So like happy for him that he'll actually have a real quarterback and a real chance to win some games. Bears get a 2nd. I don't know why Buffalo would do that. But talking about fantasy, man, DJ Moore, I've been super low on him in past years. This year,
Same.
dude, stock is through the roof. Like, he's going to see probably 150 targets from Josh Allen. Like, he's all they got. He's going to get peppered, dude.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, DJ Moore is such an interesting receiver because, like you said, over the years, he started out with Carolina. I kind of envision him as like another, like, when it comes to, I guess, the standard and the numbers that we expect to see and we do see in reality, kind of like a Terry McLaurin, where he was good right off the start, but the numbers just weren't adding up because of their situation of quarterbacks that they had to deal with pretty much their whole career, their coaches, everything that he just kind of got sucked into. Like, it really just wasn't his fault. Me still, like, I don't really know what the standard that I gave him because me and Colin talked about this in Buffalo. I said he might get around 900 yards to about 7 to 8 touchdowns.
In Buffalo,
That's in Buffalo. That's kind of where, like, I don't see him
I'll take the
going
over,
to.
bro.
The thing is, I don't see him going to Buffalo and throwing up 1,100 to 1,200 yards, having 11 touchdowns, like fucking 80 plus receptions. Like, I just don't know if I see that because he's getting older. We haven't really seen him be like that player since early Carolina days. So
He
I'm
did it
kind
with
of
he did
holding
it with
back on
Fields,
him a little
man.
bit.
People forget about that. With Fields, he had, I think, 13 or 1,400 yards. Like
Yeah.
when he was the only dog on a bad team, like he was getting targets. He's tough too. He plays through injuries. Like I'm telling you, man, whatever that line is set at, I will take the over. I think he's gonna have a 1,200 yard season, 100
Wow.
receptions. I think he's gonna through being force fed. Like I don't see
Yeah.
the Bills not throwing the ball to him a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it just worked out so well for both teams because, like you said, DJ Moore now has that opportunity where he's playing with, if not the best quarterback in the league, and Chicago now has room where they can just throw Rome in that number one spot and just kind of let him flourish and be who he is because he is in Rome was in that spot, but I just don't know really what happened. Like I feel like maybe it just I don't know, growing pains or something. Like I think we expected
He
more if
got
he
hurt
started off
early.
hot.
He got hurt early in the year, and
Yeah,
then it just seemed like he wasn't the same. I mean, after the first, I forget what it was. Like he was off to a torrid start. He had like 6 touchdowns.
that's
He
right.
had like 500 or 600 yards immediately, and then he got hurt, and he wasn't the same. You could see it kind of all year, but I've always been a Rome skeptic. I'm not necessarily all in on him. I think Burden is a better receiver, just to be honest with you, and I think Loveland is going to be a higher target than Rome, but. Room's got to either put up or shut up this year because I mean he's going to be due for his 5th year option soon, and I think there's still
Wow,
a lot of
crazy.
questions there. But this isn't a Bears
Yeah.
podcast, so we could
It,
keep it moving. But I
it,
certainly am opinionated about those guys.
but the thing is, it's not a Bears podcast. You're right, but I did say Caleb Williams. I think will win the MVP. That's why I wanted to start off with them because I think he was fantastic last year. I think he's gonna be fantastic this year. But let's move on to the draft. But before that, sponsorship, Tanzo's, Muller, go visit him. Go visit Jack. Go visit Austin. Go visit Luca. Go visit the boys. They're slinging beer down there. A lot of great selections. A lot of great NA selection. RTDs. Can't forget that. Shout out to Tanzo's. You guys have been great for us. Go check them out. Summer's coming up. We're in spring. Go get the slushies. So that being said, we got the draft coming up. What is it? April 26th, April
I'll
24th,
be
26th.
there. I'm going.
You'll be there. And it's
Yes,
in
sir.
Pittsburgh.
Yes, sir.
So are you going to be there for all 3 days or just the first round?
I think we're gonna plan is be there for the first day and the second day. So my buddy, one of my best friends that I've known since we were like little, moved out to Pittsburgh a few years ago. He's been out there. Haven't been able to visit him yet, and he was just like, "Draft is coming to Pittsburgh. This is the perfect opportunity for you guys to see my new home. We're going to the draft." I'm like, "Perfect, sounds great." So spend the weekend with my buddies. Should be awesome. We got an Eagles fan, a Falcons fan. I'm a Bears fan, obviously. So kind of wide variety there, but the Falcons fan doesn't have anything to see on day one, so he's like, we got to go on day two. See the Falcons pick, and I'm like, that's fine. The Bears have 3 picks that day, so I'll be stoked to see that. And the one in Philly was cool. The one in Philly was really cool. There's a lot of other stuff to see besides just the draft, so it's kind of like a big experience.
Yeah, I feel like it's a cool atmosphere too because you're around so many fans from all over the country, where
Yeah,
you're seeing old Rams jerseys, you're seeing Seattle jerseys, you're seeing the Vikings. Like it's not just, we're so used to, you going to Chicago, me going to MetLife, where it's just always or you go to the link, Birds, Giants, Jets, Patriots, Bills, like
yeah,
you're
it's the same
seeing a
stuff.
whole variety, which is really cool. So that should be a good experience for you, man. That should be awesome.
I'm excited. Yeah, they're projecting like an insane amount of people to show up that weekend. I don't know if it's going to be that crazy, but we'll
Mhm.
see. I think I saw something that it might be like double. They're expecting double the amount of people that were in Philly, and I'm like, dude, I don't know.
Yeah. So is it in Acrisure Stadium? Is
It's
that like
right outside of it. Like
it's
they're
right
setting up the
outside of it?
stage
Okay.
right outside of the stadium. Yeah.
Yeah, because I would always think that it's in the stadium, but I guess they just do it right outside. I guess they did in Green Bay too. But all right. Well, hey, listen. Let's go through your top 10. You can give me a little bit of spiel. We'll shoot the shit on probably each one, and then we'll kind of go through and we'll check out the other teams, other players you think are really interesting. You know, are projected high, projected low. So let's start off with let's go top three. We'll take a break and then we'll talk about them. What do you got?
Yeah, so right now I've only had two iterations of my mock out so far, and I'm spacing them out like 2, 3 weeks apart. So kind of information rapidly evolving between those segments. So this one is from a few weeks ago, and I told you before the show, it's probably going to change a lot between the next iteration, which will come out next week, and the final one, which will come out right before the draft. So I'm just going off what I have now. I do want to say last year's draft that I gave you guys on here was one of the best I've ever done. I think I had like
It
12 to
was
15 picks correct. Like it was pretty crazy. And then what ended up happening is my final one that I submitted, I changed a bunch of shit around and the one I gave you guys was actually the better one.
the better
Um
one. You did snap. You did because I would follow like your picks and because obviously we do our like our back and forth and like go through the mock draft. Like holy crap! Like we're actually getting a lot of these right. I mean, it's not easy. It's one of the harder things to predict in the world of sports. But yeah, good for you. I was impressed.
It's fun. Yeah, so number one, I think Mendoza is absolutely locked into the Raiders. I don't think there's much discussion there. They're taking Mendoza. They signed Kirk Cousins today, which honestly kind of reminds me of Mendoza a little bit. You know, maybe a young Kirk Cousins in his prime is maybe what Mendoza is a similar player to, or
Mhm.
if you want to go that route. So that's interesting. I think he's absolutely locked in. I'd be surprised if that changed. This year, though, I mean, it's kind of like the draft starts at two. I mean, even as a Jets fan, I know you're kind of like probably between like two or three guys. My gut tells me they're going to go with Arvell Reese, just kind of the way they're building that thing. I think Reese has kind of a ton of untapped potential. Like a lot of teams like that, kind of like Micah Parsons ish, like build where it's like they play inside linebacker, but they show promise as an edge rusher. So the idea is to kind of convert them. I think that kind of just matches up with what the Jets are doing. I know I've talked to you about me not being thrilled with what they've been doing in the offseason, but they're obviously taking the kind of long haul here. So I think Reese kind of fits in with that. More of a developmental guy as opposed to a guy who's just going to immediately be a great edge rusher, but kind of has that sky high ceiling that I don't know. He's just a freak athlete. Like
Mhm.
guys like that usually don't fail, whether it's at either position. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, are you leaning toward Bailey or Bain as opposed to Reese?
So it's funny because I was going to wait for the third pick to get back on the Jets, but since we're on it now, like you said, I think the draft starts at two because you have like everything you said about Arvell Reese, where they're looking for that prototype where it's a Micah Parsons type of player, you know. But then you mentioned David Bailey. Like I don't believe that Ruben Bain is in the conversation. I think it's truly between Arvell Reese and David Bailey, but it's tough because like you look at the type of player that Arvell Reese is, and he's like he's easily teachable. He's got the starter potential right off the bat to be an elite guy. It just depends on how they want to use him and how I think another interesting thing is they signed Demario Davis. He's going to be the middle linebacker for the 2 years. He's going to be a starter. That could be a great guy next to Arvell Reese or vice versa. And Will McDonald, like if they are thinking that Will McDonald should go elsewhere and they don't want to bring him back, that's where I start to question, is David Bailey going to be the pick? Because I'm also very high on David Bailey. I think his numbers in college at Stanford and then going to Texas Tech, he's that type of player where he's an old school type of guy and he's going to get to the quarterback as much as he can. He's a great rusher. He's physical and he hustles. Like I truly don't think that they can go wrong with either or. It just kind of depends on what they need at that position. I know that, we go like, depending on how the draft is, BPA is always brought up, but I like it's really like a coin flip to me, in my opinion, but I'm leaning more towards Reese, but I wouldn't be mad if they took Bailey as well, because they have a history of taking, solidified edge rushers, not really going for the prototype. But I think that's something they need, especially with Jamie and Sherwood. They gave him a big contract. He didn't really live up to expectations, but he still, was a very good tackler. But I'm thinking they're going to either, adjust that contract or move off of him, which is when Arvell Reese will come in. So that's why I think Reese will get taken. But I would not be shocked if David Bailey gets taken at 2 as well because he had a hell of a year. I thought he was excellent, but you really can't go wrong. It's just I just think Arvell Reese is so much more upside, which I think is why they're going to take a swing on him.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to consider too is, when I make these, I really try and dig into like scheme fits and also like just kind of reading the tea leaves about the moves they've made. So Will McDonald is on the team, and they've obviously traded Jermaine Johnson, and David
Right.
Bailey kind of fits the mold of those two guys more so than Reese, where I
Agreed.
think you're going to have probably a better run defender in Arvell Reese than those two guys.
That's
So
right.
to me, it wouldn't make a ton of sense to be like put David Bailey in there right after you got rid of Jermaine Johnson.
Exactly.
Bailey could be even a better rusher than Jermaine Johnson because I don't think he quite lived up to his potential. But as for like body type and scheme fit, you're kind of adding a similar type player that you already have on your roster, and it looks like you traded away. So my gut is telling me Reese is the pick here for those reasons.
Yeah, and I think like what you said, like you get rid of Jermaine. Obviously injuries really hurt his upbringing with the Jets. Now he's back in Tennessee with Salah. It's like you get rid of him just to refill that position, and you don't even know if he might not even pan out depending on how what his workload is and whatnot. I think Arvell is really intriguing because he still has a lot to learn as a pass rusher, which
Right.
is what they're I don't think they're gonna if the Jets do take him, I don't think they will force him into, he's gonna be 4-3, he's gonna be an edge rusher right off the bat. That's all he's gonna play. He's gonna be moved around a lot. He's gonna be
Yeah.
weak side linebacker. He's gonna be a run stopper, especially, they're gonna kind of suit his needs where are you comfortable and are you willing to learn a different position or learn a different skill set? That's why I think Arvell makes a lot of sense. So I'm hoping they go that route. Again, if they take Bailey, I will not be mad about it. They can't mess it up. Like they can't go and take Jeremiah Love, even though I love Jeremiah Love. Like they can't do something like that. Like you got to go take because our defense was last in the league behind Aaron Glenn, who's a defensive coach. You know this. We've talked about this. You don't even want him on the team. I don't think anyone does. Who knows? But Arvell it's kind of a set and forget. You just got to take him, and you just got to hope for the best.
Yeah, yeah. So right now that's kind of there. And for me, I think going into the draft, barring anything unforeseen, I think those two will be kind of locked in for me. Although I will say I'm not guaranteeing that Reese is going to go too, but my intuition tells me I think he will go there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like the Jets, even if you say the draft starts with those two, the Cardinals, I really have no idea. Like to me, they're in a position where honestly, like they should pray that they can try and trade back. But in a draft where only one quarterback is probably going to go in the top 10, like you're not going to have a lot of options to trade back unless some team is trading up for like Jeremiah Love, which I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen. What's funny about the Cardinals is they're kind of in the same position that they were. I forget what year they took Paris Johnson. That was like maybe 3 years ago at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah,
They're in the
agreed.
same part where they needed a tackle badly,
That's
but they
right.
were too high to take him there based on their board, so they try to trade back.
That's
And
right.
now
Yep.
here they are again where they need a right tackle badly, taking a right tackle at 3, specifically these right tackles like Muaga or Fano, who have a lot of questions. It's kind of risky. And I also think like part of me thinks like what the Cardinals did was they traded back that year for Paris Johnson and they gave up a chance at Will Anderson Jr. Like
That's right. Hmm.
why? I'm sure they regret that now. I mean, Paris Johnson's a pretty good player, but like Will Anderson is an absolute game changer.
Yep.
So everyone else is penciling a right tackle here. Part of me feels like, are they going to make that mistake again? Like, I, just take the best player available, which is what I did in my mock, and I gave him David Bailey.
Hmm.
It's kind of like they have Josh Sweat. They don't have. They have edge rushers on their team. I mean, they could always use another. I'm putting Bailey here though. Like, I don't know if they took a right tackle here. Fair, probably a bit early for one, but again, I are they going to really repeat their mistake that they made a few years ago, just trying to push a need over taking a better player?
Yeah, and the thing is, the Cardinals. I agree. Like, I just think they're in a position, like you said, they were in the same exact position a couple years ago where they traded back with Houston. Didn't they do it twice? They traded with them. It was Will Anderson, and then they traded again. I believe I forget who it was.
They
Maybe
were
I'm wrong.
moving around all over that year, but yeah,
They
something
were.
like that. Yeah, and then they ended up with Paris Johnson instead of just taking him wherever they were at the beginning.
Yeah, and the thing is with the Cardinals too, it's like, they're in one of the tougher divisions in the league now, where you got Seattle defending Super Bowl champions, the Rams, NFC bound, and obviously San Francisco, who just traded for Mike Evans. They're not going to be out of the picture. So it's really a thought of, can we just get the best player available who's going to be there for longevity? And I agree. I think David Bailey is that guy, and I believe also that at three, with the right tackles, like you said, the tackle from Miami and then Fano, like, is it a little too early to take them? In my opinion, it would be, Francis Maugoa from Miami. He would be maybe the only other option, but I just feel like David Bailey, what he brings to the table, it's just something that's going to bolster your defense. And there's just there's such an interesting team to monitor, because you can see some potential in the offense. When James Conner is healthy, now they have Jacoby Brissett, who actually could play. I think he could play, and I think he can still play at a high level. Where Michael Wilson now looks like a fucking top 10 wide receiver when Brissett is playing. Marvin Harrison, can he finally take that next step with the new quarterback? Which I still think he can. I can't say he's a bust yet; it's too early, but I just think you got to go BPA, and I think David Bailey is the pick. You're not gonna be mad about it, because he brings a lot to the table. So weird team. Now, do you think they're a trade back candidate? Like, would you be surprised if they
Yeah.
trade back?
No, no, no. I think they absolutely want to trade back because I feel like they probably feel exactly how we're describing this board, where it's like they ideally they could trade back and get the right tackle and get more draft capital. But in my head, I just don't know how realistic that's going to be in this class. Like who is a team trading up for and what are they giving up? Like
Yeah.
you're probably not going to get a huge package in this class where there's not that many quarterbacks or even like maybe a team, I mean, maybe a team wants to move up for David Bailey himself. That would be
Mhm.
the exact situation that happened to them with Will Anderson. Like
Yeah.
but
Now,
like
real quick. Do you think the Cardinals, like, jumping ahead a little bit? Do you think they're probably like the biggest candidate to trade back? Like, is that like the trade spot where teams are looking at, like, we can go get, the tackle from Miami. We could go get David Bailey. We could even get Jeremiah Love, if a team
yeah,
loves him that much.
I think three would be the spot for a team in the top 10 if they really wanted, like, I would guess maybe a team might move up for Jeremiah Love because, in my opinion, he's easily the best player in the class,
Yeah.
or or David Bailey. I think after David Bailey, there's a probably a fairly decent drop off. I mean, Bain is obviously a beast. It's just going to depend on where teams have him ranked because of his arm length. I know that will be an issue for some teams, but for a
Yeah.
team who doesn't care, he'll still be there. But I think David Bailey's kind of like I don't know. I think him, Love, or even Bain, you could put in that conversation a team would trade up for there, but I don't know how realistic that's going to be. So I think the Cardinals are going edge rusher or right tackle there with that pick.
Okay. So now let's make a little hypothetical here. So say the Cardinals do take David Bailey. Tennessee's another interesting team where, they're kind of in a similar situation where it's maybe BPA. They could be, Robert Saleh would be dying for a guy like David Bailey. Where do you see them taking, or who do you see them taking?
So in my mock, I know Schefter said, "Oh, I don't see this happening, dude." I have him taking Jeremiah Love.
Wow.
I know with Dayball in the building, like last year he was pounding the table for Jackson Dart and for Scatabo. Like, dude, I just think you're going to get the best player in the draft, and I think the Titans are the one team where it's like, yes, they're picking high, and obviously if you're picking high, you're not that good, but like. I think they had a very good free agency, filling in a lot of their holes with like very good players, like making that so I think the Jets honestly won that trade, getting Tavondre Sweat for Jermaine Johnson,
So do
but
I.
they added an edge rusher there. They signed John Franklin Myers in the interior to pair him with Jeffrey Simmons. Like they
Jeff
signed two
Sims.
corners. Like they did a lot of really good things in free agency to kind of set themselves up to just take the best player available. So yes, while I could see them taking David Bailey, I think you're also going to help Cam Ward significantly by bringing in Jeremiah Love. I used to be totally anti take a running back early, but like I don't know. My view on it's changing. I think NFL teams are kind of just running the rock a lot more now, and dude, he's like a unicorn. I honestly like him more than Genty coming out. Like I'm
Yeah.
not gonna quite say he's like Saquon level or anything like that, but I would have taken him over Genty last year for sure. Like he's just an absolute beast.
Yeah, he's a game changer. And I think ever since that draft where Atlanta took Bijan at 8, which was kind of it was a surprise to fans, but I don't think it was a surprise to, the scouts and the GMs of the league. And then obviously the Lions taking Gibbs at 12. I think that kind of flipped the script on, anti running backs, high end, top first round picks, 1 to 10. I think, teams are seeing how much these guys are getting relied on and how much they're actually producing as elite superstar running backs like Bijan, like Gibbs. Genty will be falling in that category as well. So it's not really a bad idea because Tennessee, like you said, they set themselves up really nicely in free agency. I agree with you. If Jermaine can stay healthy, I think that he is a solid pass rusher if healthy. Obviously back with Salah, but it also just, alleviates Cam Ward from just trying to do so much. It's not like their receivers are the best in the business. You have an agent Calvin Ridley. You got that DK is the other receiver, but I think Jeremiah Love definitely can change the name of that offense. Pending how the offensive line plays, but it just helps Cam Ward out so much. And Dable, he'll have a say in that.
Yeah, and I think honestly, like a lot, like the Titans honestly need a receiver, kind of probably more so than a running back. But there's just
Agreed.
no receivers this high in this draft that are like I think the biggest help you're going to do to that offense is by inserting Jeremiah Love there. Like I would take him over Carnell Tate 10 out of 10 times, like no debate. And if you're getting the best player in the draft there, screw it, send in the pick. Now, will I be shocked if they took a David Bailey? No.
No.
Sell's at the helm, maybe he gets his guy, but I just think it's setting up well for them to take a running back. And I'm not really sure why Schefter said, "Oh, I can't see it," but he's also said some weird stuff in past years, whereas like he was completely off the mark, like a few months ahead of time. He's like, "I'm not saying it won't happen, but I don't see it." I'm like, "Okay, man, like just I don't know." Like the Titans aren't going to outwardly come out and be like, "Yeah, we're drafting Jeremiah Love." Like Tony Pollard can go pound sand. Like they're not going to
Yeah.
say that, but.
No.
I just think the fit makes a lot of sense for them, for their offensive coordinator, for Cam Ward, for all of that. Like it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm looking at the top 10 now, and like I just think again they're in such a similar position to Arizona, where honestly they could even be a trade back candidate. I can see them, maybe stockpiling a couple of picks, getting a trade with a team like the Browns who maybe love you know a Carnell Tate if they want to take him that high, or the Saints, the Chiefs. It's because the Chiefs will be big spenders. They could always make a move. Like they're a real those like the draft really does start at 2, but 3 and 4, like it is an absolute
It's
wild card.
interesting.
Anything can happen there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have love going there. We'll see if that changes on draft day. I think kind of my top four, though, I feel pretty good about, and I'm probably not going to change too much, barring anything like unforeseen. Number five is interesting. The Giants with Harbaugh coming in there. In this draft, I had him taking Caleb Downs.
Wow.
I kind of go back and forth on this. I think Sonny Styles helped himself tremendously at the combine. That guy's just an absolute freak of a player, freak of an athlete. Like the Giants signed Tremaine Edmonds when the Bears cut him, so like they obviously brought in a linebacker. I just think with Harbaugh there, like their defense was kind of like their offense was decent. Their defense was so bad last year, and they have pass rushers, but it's just like their secondary, their linebackers, all of it was really bad. So I think Harbaugh's going to look for kind of a leader on that defense. And that's kind of why I'm leaning one of those Ohio State dudes, either Downs or Styles. The issue is, much like taking a running back at 4, you're taking a safety or a linebacker at 5. Like it doesn't feel good. But in this kind of draft, just take who you feel good about. What's funny about this Sonny Styles though here, I'm going to put Sonny Styles here over Downs for now. Um, is that Sonny Styles is built closer to Kyle Hamilton than Caleb Downs is. Like just that long-limbed freak athlete in the middle of your
Mhm.
defense. Like Sonny Styles is more of that than Caleb Downs. I think Caleb Downs is a really good player, and I think he's going to be a really good pro for a long time. I think he's probably not as athletically gifted as most other safeties that would go that high, but he's just such a sound football player, smart football player that like you would feel really good about bringing him in and making him a leader of your defense. But I think Sonny Styles is just more of that freak factor to him that'll propel his draft stock a little bit.
Yeah, it's I look at the Giants and everything you said I agree with. Like it reminds me of when the Jets took Jamal Adams. It's like it's kind of frowned upon to take a safety that high. But like when they're that good of a player, and like I feel like when you're looking at a safety in regard to the draft and all the attributes that they have, I feel like teams love the run stopper type of safety, like run stopper first, but also has incredible ball skills. It's just like at 5, like do they want to spend that valuable of a pick on a safety, or do they go for a guy who really was known and is an absolute hell of a player, but had an absolutely incredible combine, and it has shown that he has all the physique and attributes to be a great linebacker in the league. So that's I feel like there's more value to drafting a guy like Sonny Styles than Downs because of the position he plays, and like you said, everything about him, just a freak athlete. Kind of like how people thought of Isaiah Simmons in that way. So it's kind of a similar build. So yeah,
I mean,
that's a tough one.
here's the other thing too. Like, if Jeremiah Love didn't go to the Titans, I think he's very much in play here. I don't care what people say about
Really?
Scadaboo or any of them. Like, I think the Giants would absolutely take Love if he fell to 5. No question about it. He's that good. And I think like pairing him with Jackson Dart, I could see the Giants potentially taking Carnell Tate here, a good combo with Malik Neighbors there to build up that offense a little bit. And kind of a dark horse here that no one's really talking about is Mansour Delane, the cornerback from LSU. Like, the Giants cornerbacks were absolutely terrible last year. Flott wasn't bad, but he signed with the Titans. So like they
Yep.
don't really have that kind of lockdown corner. And Delane's another guy who he was really good on tape, but then like his pro day, I think he ran like a 4.39 or something crazy like that. Like, people didn't think he was that fast. He can fly though. So kind of a dark horse pick there.
Even like
I
O line too. Like I feel like they're a team like, and it might not seem it, but you bring in a guy like Jackson Dart, you got to protect him too. Like there are so many positions that they need, and it's they're drafting 5 for a reason. Like it's the Jets are drafting 2 for a reason. Like there's so many spots, you know. Like they could really use a guy that could protect Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart is still young, and he's going to try to run the ball. He's going to take hits that are unnecessary. Could be another option too.
Yeah, so the Giants are kind of all over the place. In my head, I just imagine Harbaugh taking more of that
Nitty
defensive
gritty
leader.
defensive. Yeah, I
Defensive
agree.
leader in his first pick there is just going to be like, solidify me with a solid player. Doesn't matter what position, plug him in
Yeah.
there and like just get some leadership on that defense. So to me, Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs make a ton of sense. I'm putting Styles here, like I said, just because he's the better athlete, and I think that'll speak to him. But could see him going a lot of ways there.
Yeah.
Browns at 6. I'll start going faster through here. Carnell Tate. I think Browns obviously need a lot of line help, but again, I'm not. A lot of these tackles just aren't these like elite echelon tackles that I'm like feeling great about taking super early. I think Carnell Tate is probably most teams' wide receiver 1 in this draft. He's not mine personally. I I think he's a solid player. I don't know if I see like elite wide receiver 1 upside with him. I think he's probably more of a wide receiver 2 in the league, but I think he fits pretty well with like their quarterback now is Shadur, and I think he fits pretty well with Shadur's skill set of throws a pretty solid deep ball, and I think Carnell Tate is that dude that'll go up and catch those, and he's good at all that kind of stuff, and he does a lot of things well. He just doesn't really have like that elite trait where I feel super, super good about him. But like I said, I think most teams in the league have him probably as their top receiver. So
Yeah, I see them going receiver. It's just really like pick your poison. You want a slot guy on Mackay, you want an X receiver in Carnell Tate, or you take a swing on Jordan Tyson. I find him an interesting name because obviously he's had his injuries too, but when healthy, he is a baller. So I when I look at the draft, that's who I'm really looking at is where do these receivers fall? What teams are going to trade up for one of them because they can even fall. Listen, the Jets got 16. You can have one of those guys fall to 16 and maybe even further back. So I do agree with you. I think Cleveland does take a receiver. They need one big time. They
yeah,
need they need to give Jared Judy some help.
they need a tackle as well, but they have 2 picks in the first round, and the first round, in my opinion, you can get a tackle kind of in the 20s. Is going to be the sweet spot for a lot of those second tier tackles, and I think the Browns will probably be able to see that.
Mm-hmm.
7 with Washington. I kind of have them in the same boat as the Giants with Dan Quinn. They don't have a ton of picks. They need some really good leadership on that back end. I think they'll take the guy who the Giants don't take if it's between Downs and Styles. I could see them taking either of those guys. I think they'd be a great fit in that defense. And again, dark horse for them again is going to be Delane because their cornerback room is just not good. And the Lattimore trade looks absolutely horrible at this point. So
Agreed.
they need an edge rusher too, though. If David Bailey or one of them guys falls, I could see them taking him or Bain, but I'm just seeing I'm envisioning Dan Quinn just wanting some more leadership on that defense, just like a solid player to plug and play there.
Okay.
So I think I gave in this draft, I had the Downs at 5 and Sonny Styles here at 7.
Okay. Flip
Um,
flop.
yeah, but I think I could see him in either position there.
Yep.
The Saints, they need edge rusher help badly, and they need a corner badly. So here I gave him Ruben Bain. I think a lot of teams won't have Bain on their board, but I don't know, man. Some team's going to take the chance on him, and some team's probably going to be really happy with him just because the tape is awesome. He's a fun player. He's really fun to watch, and like how long have the Saints been stuck in these these Cam Jordan days? He's like 40 years old now. He had 10 and a half sacks last year, which I don't know how the hell he did that. I didn't watch a ton of Saints games. So when I saw that, I was like, whoa.
I don't think anyone did.
So yeah, I have him kind of climbing out of that. This is also a good spot for a cornerback if they want to go that route. And then if Carnell Tate fell here, I could absolutely see the Saints taking him or another receiver to kind of help Tyler Shaw. But
It's interesting because there's always that one player where they're rated so highly, but they fall in the draft. And I wouldn't even consider, number 8, number 7, number 9 falling in the draft. But Ruben Bain seems like that guy where he can go as far as number 2. If the Jets love him so much and they love his, just his build, the short arms obviously is a concern. But that's a guy, when you just watch the tape of him last year, he was absolutely dominant. So he is a real interesting name to watch. I just don't see him falling out of the top 10. I see him getting picked, kind of 7 to 10 in that range. But I do like the Saints getting an edge rusher. They need that. The Chase Young project didn't really work. Obviously, Cam Jordan, he's on the back end of his career. So getting a guy like Bain could really fill them shoes in. That it makes a lot of sense.
yeah. So then with the Chiefs at 9 here, kind of again similar situation to the Saints. If Tate somehow fell to them, I could see him taking a receiver. They have a big hole at right tackle right now. This is where you could see your first tackle off the board if they want to go
Mhm.
that way. The most interesting name, the most kind of clear plug and play fit is if Delane fell to the Chiefs. I mean, they just traded away Trent McDuffie. Delane
McDuffie.
has a lot of similarities to McDuffie. And if they can just kind of get all in picks for McDuffie, not have to pay him the money and then plug in Delane, like they'd probably be freaking thrilled about that. So
Mhm.
I, in this mock, I had him going right tackle, but the more I sat on it, the more I'm kind of leaning cornerback if cornerback is there.
So I heard, well, when I was watching the mock before, they had as a mock Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon. Do you
I
think
don't see it.
you think it's
No.
smoke?
Yeah, I think people are trying too hard to connect the dots with, oh, Kelsey's getting old, he's gonna retire. Like that would be a fun pick if the Chiefs kind of let's be real, the Chiefs have kind of been in a little bit of roster construction hell and cap hell
That's
the
right.
past few years. Like
Mhm.
they are not the type of team to kind of mess around with these luxury picks when they have big holes on their roster. Like
That's right.
I would see them taking a right tackle over Sadiq because like Mahomes obviously just coming off a torn ACL. Like I could see him taking just a lineman there over that kind of luxury pick or even a wide receiver. Like they'll make do with what they have. And this is another really kind of deep tight end class. And I think we're seeing a lot of these mid round tight ends kind of develop with some of these teams into some good players. And I think Sadiq is very solid. I just think I don't know. I where the Chiefs are at, I like they can't really afford to mess around with this pick. So I'm not buying that. I think
Yeah,
it's just a
that
little
makes sense too.
I think that's like a fun little oh, Kelsey's replacement's waiting in the wings.
Yeah,
It's it's not all sunshine and rainbows in Kansas City that they can afford to draft that.
that high too. Like the only type of luxury I see them really making a move for is Jeremiah Love. Because obviously Pacheco's not even on the team anymore, and your starting running back is Kareem Hunt. You
No,
know
they
that
signed
that's
Kenneth Walker.
oh geez, Christ. Oh my God, they signed Kenneth Walker. You're right. Okay, so well, I could still see them maybe taking him,
I,
but
I
the
could
Kenneth
see it
Walker
too.
now I doubt
I
it. I
don't,
forgot
yeah,
about that.
I think corner or right tackle is probably the way to go. Like, I think they're just gonna, they have to kind of hit a fastball down. If you want, if you do want more of a fun, quote unquote, luxury pick, like if Caleb Downs was there, that helps their
Mhm.
defense. It's a safety, but like they lost Brian Cook in free agency to the Bengals, so that would make sense. Add another kind of solid secondary piece there, but safety, cornerback, something in the secondary or alignment is where I think they're going to go.
Yeah, good point. I forgot they signed Kenneth Walker. It makes sense.
Yeah, and then to round out my top 10. So honestly, this is kind of like doomsday for the Bengals because I think every single Bengals mock draft, you'll either see them Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, like linebacker, corner, safety. If all three of them goes, and this kind of goes for Dallas too, I'm sure Mueller won't love to hear this, but like there's kind of a steep drop off after those positions go. And like if I don't
Yeah,
know what the Bengals would do here. In this mock, I threw Keldrick Falk in there, who I really don't like as a player, but it seems like every year a guy that comes out with like these gargantuan traits that some team will take really high. Like Michael Williams went 11th or 12th last year to the 49ers, and Falk is kind of built just like him, where it's like, well, his college sack numbers aren't great, but he's young and he's this gigantic edge rusher and he has all these athletic traits. Like they took Shamar Stewart a few years ago. I don't know if they're going to learn, but they definitely have a prototype of like these developmental guys.
yeah,
Um, Now this 10 might be too rich for Falk. I just don't think the tape is good enough to take him there. A lineman, I could see them taking a lineman too. Like they've I don't know. It feels like every year they just can't keep Burrow healthy and on his feet. So like
they got a lot of work to do.
they do have a lot of work to do. And it honestly kind of just baffles me a little bit. I'm just like, I don't know if that did happen, like Caleb Downs wasn't on the board or Sonny Styles, like their two biggest positions of needs. I don't know, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, their defense is an atrocity, which is why I feel like they would go the defensive route. But like you said, Joe Burrow is getting hurt every single year, and like, how much more can they afford it until he has, a major serious injury like he has been having? Your goal is to keep that guy as healthy as possible. They're going to put up the points. That's not a question. It's just can they protect him as they're putting up the points? Can they at least stop the opposing offense, which they have not been able to do for the last 2 years? They got a lot of issues on defense, and that's where it's like, is one player going to really alter the defense to be a top 30 defense to a top 27 defense? It's they got issues, man, and it's a tough position because 10 is a really strange spot where like you don't really have like people could trade up at 10, but like I don't know what your value would be in return. Maybe like a swap first and maybe a second round pick, but
Again,
it
it's the question of who are teams moving up for. So I
that
do
too.
think after them kind of like top 10 players, like there's a fairly big drop off. But the good thing about this draft is like I think between like 10 to the end of the first round, like if you're a team drafting in that range, especially later in the first, like you're getting a similar type of player.
Hmm.
Like I don't think like they're bad players. It's more of just like you're not getting that kind of crazy upside that you're getting in the top 10. And you can say that for most years, but I think this year more specifically is just like there's a kind of a cliff that you fall off there. And I don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of when you talk about the value of the picks, like I feel like after 10, maybe after 12, I feel like the value you might not see a lot of trade ups because you just don't want to spend that those you don't want to spend that value of picks to move up for someone like who is I guess dropping off that gap from let's say a Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, David Bailey, whatnot. But it's just you can kind of sit tight and you can kind of wait. Like I only see maybe a guy like Makai Lemon where if he's sitting there and a team really loves him and a team really could use a guy like him, maybe they'll trade up for him. But I feel like it's a wait and sit type of draft. Besides maybe the first 3 or 4 picks.
Yeah,
So
I fully agree. And just for the sake of time here, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. We can dive into it more when the final one comes out, but I'll just
yeah,
highlight some of my more interesting picks in the first I have here. So the Rams at 13, man, I have them plugged in with Makai Lemon. People
Yeah,
might be like, oh, they have Adams and they have Puka. Like, they just traded a shit ton of picks for
Trent
what's his
McDuffie.
name? Trent McDuffie. Like they're not messing around. Stafford is coming off an MVP. He's probably got like 2 years left max. Like
Yeah,
they're
agreed.
going all in. And Makai Lemon is like, in my opinion, the perfect Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan kind of slot demon. Like he's just so good. He's undersized, and say what you will about undersized receivers, but like I him in that offense would just be insane to me.
Yeah,
Like,
it would be a dominant offense. Like if as long as they protect Matthew Stafford, one out of three of those guys, Devontae Adams, Puka Nakua, or Jordan Tyson, or Mekhi Lemon, Jesus Christ, like they're going to get open and they're going to wreak havoc on every defense they play. I
yeah,
mean, listen, you got to keep up with Seattle now. You know that defense is top defense in the league. They just won the Super Bowl. How are you going to beat them? You got to get more weapons, and you can tell last year that Devontae and Puka. They were getting abused. That's every game. You know, they were getting hurt. They were putting their body on the line. Having another guy like Makai Lemon just, take the pressure off of them and just be a baller. I mean, his tape at USC was incredible. I mean, he's
it's
a hell of a
insane.
slot receiver.
He's my favorite receiver in this class, to be honest with you. I think he's just that good.
Mhm.
The kind of between Lemon and the other thing is obviously Sean McVay runs the most 13 personnel in the league. So like Kenyon Sadiq here makes sense. They just
Yeah.
took Terrence Ferguson. They just drafted all these tight ends in previous years. I don't think it matters. Like McVay will get his guy if he likes him. So don't be shocked if that's where Sadiq goes and they just they go crazy with 4 or 5 tight ends. But I have Lemon here. I think Lemon is honestly the better player than Sadiq. Speaking of Sadiq, though, I have him penciled into the Ravens. Like they just lost Isaiah Likely in free agency to the Giants. And if you want to talk about a fun succession plan to an older tight end, I think that makes more sense considering the Ravens' play style, what they like to do. Like Sadiq to me is more of like a wide receiver than just a pure tight end. And I think the Ravens kind of need that. So whether they take an actual receiver or they take him to plug into that offense, I think that makes a lot of sense for them.
Yeah, they're another team. Like yeah, I could see that, obviously with Isaiah likely going, but you're right because he's not just a tight end. He's more of like that, vertical, straight receiver with an aging Mark Andrews. That could be a nice, fill and learn from him. Depends on what that new regime wants too. They
Yeah.
can load up on defense. They can, keep protecting Lamar. They've always had their receiver problems too, where they've really only had Zay Flowers, and that's really been it. So they're another team that can go multiple routes. I think what's interesting in this draft is a lot of these teams have a lot more holes than needs. I feel like the last couple of years it was more based off what they needed, maybe taking upside swings. But you're looking at a lot of these teams where a lot of good teams have kind of maybe fallen off a little bit and need to revamp their team. Like the Ravens is one, Miami's another team where they're kind of in the shitter now. They need to figure out what plan, like who's going to be their long-term solution. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you lose Mike Evans, you have Jalen McMillan, you have Egbuka. How are you going to better that team? It's the Lions is another one. They're losing guys left and right, especially on the offensive line. Are they just going to take a knee? Are they going to go BPA? It's really interesting to see, and especially with these teams that are coming up, like Carolina. Carolina's another team that has been getting better. Are they going to go BPA or are they going to get someone that's going to fill in a key position on their team? So I feel like we'll see a different type of approach to the draft with a lot of these teams selecting where it might be based off a need rather than, a BPA or a want, excluding, the first 6, 7 picks of the draft. So it's really a swing draft, in my opinion. This is all building up to next year. Next year is where we're going to see
Yeah, the
movement
27
all
draft is
over
nuts, man.
we're going to see movement all over the board. It's probably going to be the most trades we've seen in a while.
Yeah, it's that one's going to be hard to pin down, but I agree with you. This is just going to be kind of take your medicine, take what you like, but you don't need to
That's how
kind of
I've taken it.
move all over the board. These just happen to all be in a row, but the next team I highlight is the Jets. Obviously, we're talking about Jordan Tyson. I don't know, man.
Oh,
I think
come
his
on.
testing and I think his like injury is going to scare teams off a lot.
True.
I'll be honest with you. I think he's going to slide on draft night, probably way further than people think. Maybe not.
Mhm.
This is what I'm thinking. And I think there's a guy out there There's a guy out there that is kind of quietly sneaking up draft boards. He hasn't been talked about. He tested really well, and I don't know. I was kind of shocked at how good his tape actually was. And it's Omar Cooper from Indiana. I think the dude is just a straight dog. Like, that is the type of dude I want on my team. He's going to do all the dirty work. And I kind of got the opposite vibe watching Tyson. Like, I've seen Tyson make some incredible plays, and I've also seen some plays where it seemed like he was like sliding down because he didn't want to get hit. Like, there's a play where it's like 3rd and 3, and he slides a yard in front of the first down marker because he was going to take a big hit, and there was a penalty that ended up saving them. But it's just like, that's not the kind of guy I want on my team.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I see Omar Cooper freaking winning the game in the back of the end zone with like an incredible toe tap catch. Like, he's just a dog, and I think the Jets will really like that. I think Aaron Glenn will really appreciate that. Keep an eye on him, man. I think he's going to go higher than people think, and I think he's going to go higher than Tyson.
Yeah, I mean, him and Fernando last year were incredible, and I agree with you too. Like, I think he is. When you go to Mekhi Lemon, Cardinal Tate, Jordan Tyson, it's not like there's a big gap after. Like, I feel like Zachariah Branch from Georgia is another good player
Dude,
that someone could
the second
really.
round receivers are awesome this year. Second, third
I
round.
agree. I agree. I believe the Jets have to take a receiver. Like, they need to stop fooling around. They are so conservative when it comes to their picks. This is the draft to take one. You have 16. You're playing for next year. They have to pair Garrett Wilson up with somebody. And I know you love Adonai Mitchell, and I know I had my questions about him. I think he's in a great situation now,
No,
but
they can't rely on him.
they can't rely on him. And that's my thing too. Like, they can't just, because John Mechie, they let him go in free agency and people are very high on him too. But you have to bring in somebody. And that's why I do think they'll take a receiver at 16, is because letting Mechie go with the season that he had with the Jets, which is actually, exceeded expectations. You got to you're in a really good spot. You don't have to trade up. Someone will fall. Like you said, Jordan Tyson could slide. They could take a chance on him, but they have to take a receiver. They must. If they listen, you got to help out Garrett Wilson. You got to help out Geno. The O-line is good. It's not the best, but it's good. They lost John Simpson in free agency, but it's time to get Garrett Wilson some
And
help
Vera
and
Tucker,
stop
right?
force feeding him. What's that?
They lost Vera Tucker too, right?
Yeah, and Elijah Vera Tucker now on the
Who
Patriots.
did they sign? Could you see them taking a guard?
I could see them taking a guard, but I don't think it will be this high. I think they'll wait
Because, dude,
probably.
Vega Ioane is a beast. In my opinion, he's the best lineman in the draft. I think he'll probably go before this pick, but a lot of people are like, "Oh, he's going to slide to the 20s 'cause he's a guard." I'm just like, dude, I don't know. I don't see it. I think he's quite literally like the best lineman in the draft.
Yeah, it depends like where, because they have a bunch of second round picks too. So they could be a team that trades up in the back end of the first round, like they did with Jermaine Johnson. They traded out. They were 42, and I think they trade up to 26 and maybe getting a guard or something.
Yeah, but did they
Um,
sign anyone in free agency to replace those guys?
No, they did not. So they re-signed a lot of their depth pieces, but obviously, having Membu, Joe Titman, and Olufashinu. So those guys are pretty much penciled in for pretty much a couple years to come
That's
down.
some good
But
insight. To me, they could absolutely take Ioane there, in my opinion. But
yeah,
I think he'll
that's
be great.
that's the thing though. It's like every single year they let a guard go and they replace him, and they just expect them to just be, a stud. Tyler Linderbaum's going to stay there forever type of guy. Like, they need to get out of that, and they need to start really getting all of these pieces in line. And like, I just think with the amount of second round picks they have, they can afford to kind of wait on a lineman, because again, you said it's not the strongest class for tackles and guards, but I think they could wait, honestly, because we've done this too many times where we stack up the O line, but yet we have no offense because we have no weapons and we can't get anything going. And I think this is the year that they have to again, I believe it's all for next year. They need to set whoever quarterback they're taking next year up with pieces that he can throw to. And again, I don't know how much faith they have in Adonai Mitchell to fill that wide receiver 2 role, but
No, you
they
can't.
have to get somebody else. I'm so tired of them taking the same old tackles and guards, and it's worked. Like, Mekhi Becton didn't work. Olufashion was looking like a very good pick. Armin Membu was one of the better tackles that came out of the draft last year, and he was exceptional this past year. So I think they can afford to wait. I really want them to take a tight end. I think, or a receiver. I think it just makes too much sense not to.
Yeah, I think Omar Cooper fits a lot of what they need.
Absolutely.
And I think he fits the mentality that Aaron Glenn likes. So
Yeah.
I think that would be a seamless fit. Like I said, I don't know about Jordan Tyson right now. I'm not as high as the consensus. Few other picks. I think the Panthers are in kind of a similar situation to the Jets, where like they just drafted um they drafted Tet last year, but like I, I don't think they should shy away from taking another receiver or Kenyon
Agreed.
Sadiq if he's there. Like
Yep. Agreed.
if they want Jordan Tyson or Omar Cooper, like I think that's a spot to look at. I don't they absolutely should be in on another guy to kind of give Bryce some more help this year. And you obviously know where I stand on Bryce. I don't think he's it. I don't think like I think they're gonna have to move off him eventually, but like they're in on him. So that I think they should surround him with another piece and just see what happens. Like
Yeah, I agree. I think, having Ted as a wide receiver one, they took Jatavion Sanders. I know they're waiting for him to,
dude,
break out.
they've been doing kind of like what you said the Jets do, where they just kind of like piece all these like random receivers together and hope they pan out. It's just like all these guys they've drafted have not panned out. Like Xavier
Agreed.
Leggett has kind of been
Yes.
disappointing. Like all
Yep.
them guys, or there's like random receivers they take, like just not hasn't been it. They brought in Adam Thielen, like no,
Yeah.
they need to step up and just pair someone with Tet and just make it like as easy as possible for Bryce. So.
Yeah, and they're one of the teams too that like listen. They won the NFC South last year, and if anything, they're one of the, in my opinion, one of the only teams in the NFC South that's maybe ascending. You could look at the Saints, and they're going in the right direction, but they're clearly not where Carolina and Tampa is. Tampa's going through a couple of changes. How are they going to look next year? Atlanta, obviously, they bring in Tua. Like, how are they going to look next year? Like, I feel like Carolina could really jump the gap above those teams and really solidify themselves as the NFC South, contenders, I guess, like a solidified divisional winner. So I would say, they can't mess it up, but like they need to make sure that they draft the right person. Like it has to be the right person that can play right away and contribute immediately.
Yeah. Highlight a couple more things here. The Bears, I'll obviously talk about them at 25. I've had them penciled in at safety all off season. I think they're in a good spot to take the best player available, which I think also might be a safety here. But also like they let Kevin Byard go and they brought in Kobe Bryant. They also let Brisker go. They literally don't have a second starting safety. So like
Mhm.
they quite literally they're going to have to take a safety in the first two rounds, probably maybe or first three rounds. But I haven't taken Emmanuel McNeil Warren. He's one of my favorite players in this class. I've been pounding the table for him all off season. I like him more than Dylan Thineman from Oregon. I know other people like him because his combine was really good and the tape is solid. McNeil Warren is just I don't know, man. Something about those like supersized safeties. We've seen how good Nick Emanwari has been in Seattle,
Yeah,
and I don't want to
agreed.
compare those two, but like people overthought Emanwari so much, and then like he's just an absolute like he's what makes that Seattle defense tick. So I love McNeil Warren. I think he would fit so well with the Bears and their culture. Just like he's known for like his peanut punch, like I just love everything about it. I think he's like the ideal kind of box safety replacement that also has some ball skills back there. So big fan of his game. That's who I want the Bears to take, and that's who I've been mocking there. I think they will take a safety. Um, we'll see. They kind of need a left tackle too. They need defensive help, but I'm not as high on a lot of these defensive linemen this early. Um, moving on from there, this kind of goes along with like the Bears or like anywhere from like the Eagles, Browns, Bears, Bills, 49ers range. I think a team is going to come up from the top of the second for Ty Simpson.
Really,
I'm not a big Ty Simpson fan, but like I think he's going to go at the end of the first round. And
I agree.
what the thought that keeps coming in my head, and it's actually funny that it worked out like this, is that last year the Giants moved up from 34 to 25 with the Texans for Ty Simpson, and this year the thought in my head is like the Cardinals are going to come up for him. Well, guess what? The Cardinals are at 34. The Bears are at 25. I'm just like, that would be, as a Bears fan, that would be the most ideal situation trading out of that pick for a team that wants to come up for Ty Simpson. And in return, last year, I think the Texans got a third rounder that year, and then they got a future third rounder this year coming up, or this
Yeah,
draft
it'll,
year.
it'll be interesting to see where he goes because I obviously, the
I just
Jets are
know
locked to him. It gets
that
like,
fifth year option is really important to teams. So like, I don't know, like in hindsight, I bet the Saints are happy they got Tyler Shao, but I bet in the back of their minds they probably wish they moved up to the back of the first for him to get that extra year.
yeah,
So
yeah, makes sense. Yeah, he's definitely an interesting name to watch. He's gonna be talked about throughout the draft,
yeah,
especially after 15.
dude, this is like it reminds me a lot of last year because I remember people were like, "There's no way these quarterbacks are going in the first round." Like, dude, I there's such a steep drop off at quarterback in this class after this that like I think one
Yeah,
team is going to do it. People will probably mention I don't. You're right. The Jets are building for 27. I can't see them moving up for Ty Simpson. Something is
yeah, I
just telling
can't.
me the Cardinals are going to do it. I don't know why.
Mhm.
I think
But
he
then that's the
fits
thing.
that kind of system really well too.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's again like 2027 is the draft to take quarterbacks. It's like, do you really want to move up and get a guy like Ty Simpson, who I feel like it just has to be the perfect scenario, and the Cardinals make sense because you have Jacoby there, and you have Ty Simpson to learn and at least adjust to the system as he watches and sits on the bench. The Vikings. They bring in Kyler. Are they going to make a trade out for JJ? Is someone going to take a budge on him? So it's really interesting, but I just don't see the rush for a guy like Simpson. It just has to be the right scenario for a
I
team.
mean, the Steelers too, like that's interesting. Not a lot of people are talking about that. I could see something like that potentially happening. Bring Rodgers back for a year. They don't trade out. Maybe they just take Ty Simpson. I don't know. I'm sure Steelers fans won't want to hear that, but I could see it happening. Like at some point, they're going to have to draft a quarterback. And you
That's
can
right.
say what you want about next year, this year.
Will Howard,
They're not going
whatever.
to have the capital to. They will have the picks, but like they're going to have to give up three first round picks to move up in next year's draft for
Yeah,
like a quarterback, like versus just staying put. So I could see that as a location for him, but I know in the back of my head I made the mistake last year being like, there's no way Jackson Dart's going in the first round, and then that's exactly what happened. So
exactly.
I'm not ignoring that feeling in my gut that Ty Simpson is going to go in the first round in this draft. So I'll kind of leave it there for the draft for now. I think we're going to see the more kind of information that comes in that I'm seeing and that I'm putting together, I think we're probably going to see 8 or 9 offensive tackles go in the first round, which is more than I had in my mock. I
Mhm.
think I had a couple receivers put in there that I'm going to say this draft is so kind of receiver heavy that I think you can get a good one in round two. I
Yeah,
think the offensive tackle drop off is massive after the first round. So
I could
I
see
think
that.
I think some of even these developmental tackles are just going to go like Maxi and Ichar from Arizona State just started playing football in college. Like I could see a team liking him a lot. I could see a team liking Blake Miller from Clemson a lot. There's just a lot of those guys that are kind of like normally would be round two talents, but the drop off is just so steep between that kind of tier to the next where I don't know if teams are going to want to wait.
Yeah,
And then
and the thing is, it's a very heavy on defense too. Like it's people aren't going to like this draft because it's going to be so so penciled in on defense. But honestly, I look at every single team and it's kind of what they need. I mean, like the league is shifted to such an offensive gameplay style where you just need a guy that's just going to help out, and there's so many good players on defense too. So I think that I agree where you're going to see a lot of these offensive guys. You'll have a couple sprinkled in, mid teens, and then once the 20s hit, I think that's where you'll see them go off a little bit. But yeah, it's a really strange draft. I'm very excited. A lot of shit, a lot of
yeah,
shit, a lot of players, man. Oh my god, it's wild.
we went through a lot today, so I think it's a good place to kind of cap it for now until we get the final one out. Because like I said, this shit just changes so much as we get closer with pro days and all that kind of stuff, and more information coming out as we get closer. So,
Yeah, and I know you still have a lot of work to do when it comes to your final draft. I do you think this is one of the tougher drafts to kind of pinpoint?
um, honestly, no. I think I've struggled less just kind of putting players in positions because I think I have been more so just going with my gut on best player available type situations where I don't know. Sometimes in previous years, there's just been some wacky stuff. Like
Yeah,
this year, like we
trades.
kind of talked about, I don't think there's going to be a ton of trades, which just makes it way easier. There's a
Yep.
lot of teams with multiple picks, so it's kind of like, they can grab two players of their choosing at either spot, or at like two different positions that they have needs at. Um, that kind of stuff. Speaking of trades, if you want one team, we're talking about like the Cardinals trading out. If you want one hypothetical team that I can absolutely see moving up, Dallas. Keep an eye on
Dallas.
Dallas. Jerry Jones is absolutely unhinged. They secretly had a. I'm not a big Rashawn Gary fan. They secretly had a pretty good offseason. Like
I agree.
I could see Dallas just making some kind of move up into the top five for one of those players. Like, I don't know if it's David Bailey, Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs. Like I said, the Bengals are in that kind of weird spot where it's like them and Dallas. Most likely, all the players that they need the most are going to be gone. Keep an eye on them to move up.
Okay.
I absolutely will mark them down as a team that I'm like, okay, I could for sure see them moving up to get a better player before that cliff happens.
Yeah, and Jerry Jones, I've talked my shit on him, and so has Mueller, of like how patient he's been and how conservative he's been. But with the way their team has looked last year and their offensive capabilities, that might just light a fire under his ass. Be like, listen, we could win this. We could win the division. Let's make a trade for somebody. So that could happen. I agree. Miami to me is interesting as
They,
well as an
they're
AFC East fan to see what they do.
they're in full rebuild. Like they
I
can't
know.
afford to trade up. They just need to take. They have so many holes. It's like they could quite literally take any position and be okay.
Yeah. I guess just seeing like who they would take. Like, are they going to take a receiver? Are they just going to go BPA? Because they are,
Honestly,
I
if
agree,
if I
complete
were
rebuild.
them, I keep mocking them. Like I just take a lineman there, a
Yeah, that
lineman,
could be.
a
Yeah, makes
lineman.
sense.
I think that's kind of the sweet spot for those linemen I'm talking about that I don't think should go top five. I think in that kind of 10 to 15
11.
range is probably
Yeah,
where they should realistically go. And I mean, they brought in Malik Willis and they just no one else is there. They need to just fully retool that team.
I agree. I agree. Well, good stuff, dude. Good stuff. You're prepared. I like it.
Dude, we got through a lot today.
We did. We did. Honestly, we got through a lot more than I expected. Yeah, good draft again. We'll have you on probably maybe a week before the final, and you'll be in Pittsburgh, which would be great.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm only going up the night before, so I'll be free leading up to then for sure. So
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, we'll spend next podcast maybe talk a little bit about the Mets. I know we went over a little bit, but Lucas, thank you again, bro. It's always good seeing you. Love having you on. You're the man. You know your shit always. Really good info, man. That was a good episode. Absolutely.
hell yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Likewise, man. Well, gentlemen, B team is out.